The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. So I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another live edition of DTRH. It is May 21st, 2013. I want to get into a bunch of different things tonight, but first and foremost, I want to go over this tornado that touched down in Oklahoma yesterday. And I'm not going to go on and on about how it was horrific and it wiped out, homes all over the place. I'm sure you've heard that on every news channel. I'm sure by now you've seen the photos and everything. It was horrific. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm not going to, appeal to emotion. That what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out there some information that I do know about local charities or groups that are helping out. I put out a call earlier on my Facebook page for anybody that had any info about local charity groups or anything that's in the area of Oklahoma that we could either you could throw money at them, but throwing money at an issue and walking away from it is the problem with this country. We've become so used to that. You just, throw whatever, a couple bucks at it and walk away. How about if we donate water, food, supplies, clothing, if people can afford to put up some of these displaced families in their homes and help them, whatever the case may be. Maybe if you're a business and you have a hotel or something and you can help out, whatever. I want to find the local charities. So I do have one that I know of that's local on the ground that I'll give out. And I know Beck is going out there with some tractor trailers with some supplies in it, and there's other charity organizations. I think there's one called ETA. Somebody told me that 100% of the donations are going there, but I'd rather you deal with someone directly right in the, boots on the ground in the middle of it, ground zero as it were out there. So I have some information to give out about that. So I'll give out that, and we'll go over a few things, and then we're going to get into what anarchy isn't, solutions, and a whole bunch of other things tonight. So stay tuned. We got a break, the quick first segment break coming up on us really quick. But as I said, on the other side, when we get back in one short minute, I will give out the information on how people can help out those in Oklahoma who lost everything. This is what it's about. Us helping out, not waiting for the government or some agency to do it. We'll be right back. All right, so we are back. Let's get into the relief efforts going on in Oklahoma. Again, don't give to the Rothschild Cross, because that's what the Red Cross is. Right? Rothschild Cross. That's what they are. Go learn who funded the Red Cross, where it came from. Red Crescent, same thing. Okay, go research who these people are. They use these disasters for fundraisers and fund drives. It's disgusting. They did the same thing when Hurricane Sandy hit, and they've done it throughout the years. Just ignore the Red Cross. They are useless. I know there's people that are going to say, Popeye, I listen to your show, but I work for the Red Cross, and we do a lot. No, you don't. You think you do, but you don't, okay? You don't. The money that gets raised goes into a fund and doesn't even go towards the disaster that's being used to raise the money. Look what they did with 9/11. Well, that's the way we do things, that's our policy. Well, great. Then my policy is to call out scumbags like you. So why would you trust an organization that was founded by the Rothschild family? Really? They control it. End of story. Don't use the Red Cross. That's why they suck. So in Oklahoma, what I know so far, on the ground, there, local, Southgate Baptist Church in Moore itself, which is the city that was hit by the tornado, the city that was devastated, I guess you could say. It's going to be used as a feeding and comfort spot and community staging ground. And this is from Red Dirt Report. Andrew Griffin, he's the editor over there. Former state legislator Randy Terrell talked to Red Dirt Report this afternoon and alerted us that his church, Southgate Baptist Church at 740 Southwest 4th Street in Moore, will be serving plenty of meals to hungry folks in the midst of the rubble and devastation. If you go over there, and I don't know the details, again, you'd have to go on the ground and go talk to them if you're there. Instead, I'm sure if you're even bothering listening to the radio right now and you hear this, which I'm sure you're not, but if you do hear this or someone you know hears this, if you know, ladies and gentlemen out there, if you know someone that is in the area over there, tell them they can go over to Southgate Baptist Church in Moore itself, and they are feeding people and giving them comfort. Also, there is apparently atheists giving aid to the Oklahoma tornado relief. WeAreAtheism.com has set up a donation site where all of the money is going to help the victims of the tornado. So even, two sides of the spectrum there, and both of them are stepping up to the plate and doing the right thing. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we need to do. And in the coming days, if you find any more of these local charities, I want to, local groups. Remember what I did with the Staten Island Pizza Project? Remember there was a guy up in Staten Island, local pizzeria owner, started doing a thing that they would take donations where if you donated a certain amount, whatever, I would think was the minimum donation, I think was like $13 or $16 or $6 or something like that, whatever it was. They would give a pizza pie and something to drink, a soft drink, to the rescue personnel or the people that were affected by Hurricane Sandy. And for those of you that don't, before I was on Unbound, this was last year, you can go back and listen to my archives. It's around October, whenever Hurricane Sandy hit, you'll see it was called, the episode was titled The Staten Island Pizza Project. And it was a local guy who just, him and the owner, him and a local resident got together and came up with this idea, and actually I think it was the resident that brought the idea to him, and then he said yes, and they ran with it, and they ended up, I don't know how long it went for, I know for at least a month they were making pizzas, people were calling up, donating, their credit card number, information, stuff over the phone to the guy, he'd run it, and then if they donated $50, that he would make $50 worth of pizzas and send them to a location, and that's what we need to do. That's the kind of stuff we need to do again. So if anybody finds out any local stuff in the local Oklahoma area, email me at vfor911@gmail.com. vfor911@gmail.com. Email me and let me know if you know of a local charity on the ground that's the real deal, that's collecting money to help people that lost their homes or anything like that, and I will get it out there. I will do my best to get the word out and spread it. I have no issue donating time from the radio show to help people, to get information out there if it's going to help people. I did it during Hurricane Sandy. in the aftermath, and I will certainly do it for this. So just send me the info. Now, to be fair, by the way, just so everybody knows, tomorrow I will not be live. I am taking tomorrow off. So if you guys email me tonight, don't expect to hear any of the stuff aired tomorrow. I won't be on air, but Thursday and Friday I will be live again. And I will, anybody that emails me between now and then, I will make sure that I give it some airtime, and I, whatever phone numbers, addresses. The more information you give me, the better it is, because then I could give out all of it repeated times on air. I as I said, I did it with Hurricane Sandy, and I'll do it again with this, but you just got to get me the info, and I'll gladly donate the airtime to it and talk about it. And if anybody on the ground if there's issues on the ground that aren't being addressed, like in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy, when the Red Cross wasn't addressing certain issues and this, that, the other thing, hit me up, and I'll get you on air to do, even if it's only for a segment or two, just to get you on air and let your voice be heard. I did that with Sandy as well. I had locals, people I actually knew up there, that they came on the show for a little while, and they were reporting live, from on the ground during the relief effort. So if you need to get if there's something going on and people aren't being told, or if people need help, and for whatever reason, if you need to get it out, email me, vfor911@gmail.com. Any charity information, anything, hit me up with it so I can get it out there on the airwaves for everybody. And as I said, it's really super important that everybody come together and take care of this, because the government ain't going to do anything. I mean, have you even seen the president come out and talk about this yet? Right? Have you seen any of his? Have you seen anybody do a special conference? We're gonna send FEMA down and take care of things. I mean, you would think that with all the bad press, he would want to be riding this for everything it's worth. So I'm kind of surprised that they haven't, but at least publicly come out and tried to use it for their advantage. Anyway, but I'm not surprised that they haven't come out and done anything. I don't ever expect the government to come save anybody when there's a problem. I expect the citizens of the area to come out and save people when there's a problem. That's the whole point of voluntarism. Just do it. Don't do it because you want to get paid or you want to make some money. I mean, yeah, that's nice. Living in a nice house and having tons of money in your savings account is all great. But one day you're going to frickin' drop dead. And you're not going to be able to use all of it anyway. And you're just going to leave all that money to some. I mean, maybe you have a loving family that you want to leave it to, but you'll have some greedy scumbags in your family that want to get their paws on your money that you worked for, so they can go buy a flat screen TV with it. So, just sit and think. Personally, if I had cash right now, if I had a decent amount of money and I had some time, I would go down there. I would try to. I guess the first thing I would probably focus on would be clean clothing for the people. So, I mean, if I had enough money, like if I was one of these rich entrepreneurs, I mean, that's honestly who should be stepping up to the plate and taking care of things like this. In the aftermath of, was it Katrina? I remember Tide brought the trucks down to the area there so people could they had trucks with washers and dryers on it, and they were doing free loads of laundry for the people to help them. Why wait for a big corporation to do that? Aren't there any other companies out there that have money, CEOs that are paying attention to what's going on, that have hearts? Maybe you guys could go out. I mean, it's tax deductible at the end of the year anyway, right? Anything that you donate to charity. So make sure you get receipts for everything. Go out there and do the right thing. Don't wait for government to do it. I don't see the president running around trying to save anybody. I don't see senators and congressmen, although I'm sure that they're going to go on air and say how it's global warming that did this. And their answer to all the problems will be to tax the living hell out of people and bring in new laws to stifle things that you can do, stifle the growth of humanity on a technological level, and to tax the living crap out of people and make tons and tons of money, all for your safety, because, taxing you on the weather will stop tornadoes from happening. It's got nothing to do with the actual in reality geoengineering that's going on, right? That's got nothing to do with the climate change. Yes, the climate is changing. It is changing. And I guess you could say it is kind of done by man's hand. I guess maybe man-made climate change in the context of geoengineering is correct. But cow farts and SUVs aren't causing it. The sun plays a lot into it. But again, so does geoengineering. The tornadoes in Joplin, in 2011? Same thing. I talked to Mike about this, Mike Murphy, the guy filmmaker behind What and Why in the World Are They Spraying. I've talked to him about this on air and off air, and others too. And there's enough evidence to show that they were spraying and they were screwing with that storm system that led to those tornadoes. Okay? So they do play. The powers that shouldn't be, these geoengineers, they have conferences where they talk about doing this stuff. So yeah, this does exist. So did geoengineering play a part in it? Who knows? I mean, they screw with the atmosphere. It's like what you do to this part of the atmosphere in this world has an effect over in Asia. So perhaps, what they do in Asia has an effect here. Same thing, and even locally, what they do on the West Coast has an effect on the East Coast. Or what they'll do on the West Coast could have a drastic effect in the Midwest. You saw it with the droughts as well. They would spray over the West Coast so that the water wouldn't rain. The water that was evaporating up from the ocean, it wouldn't even, the process of that being evaporated and becoming rain clouds and then going over the Midwest and raining over all the crops and everything, that didn't even happen because they they blocked the sunlight basically. Global dimming. You can actually look that up. They blocked the sunlight in the West Coast and stopped the evaporation process. So by doing that, they ended up, now the water wasn't being evaporated up to the clouds and transported over. Another way they do it is they keep the water up inside the atmosphere, like a river of water floating above our heads, and then they can use the the jet stream to push it around and move it around. Look, all this stuff is real. So, and I could get off on a tangent on it, and I don't want to too much. The point is, it is real. So if they come out and say, "Oh, global warming and climate change," the retort to that should be, no, well, yeah, I'm sure man-made, geoengineering experiments that you people are funding are having something to do with that. And if they laugh at you and say, "Oh, you're talking about chemtrails," you say, "No, I said geoengineering." Don't let them pigeonhole you like that. You watch. They'll say they're going to come out and they're going to blame this on global whatever, climate change. Oh my God, we need. It doesn't matter what they call it. The end of the day, their answer will be tax the hell out of it. Let's tax it. That'll solve the problem because taking money out of your pocket will stop tornadoes from happening. Think about that for a second. Now, the death and the destruction, above ground destruction, well, that's not really preventable, only to a certain degree. But the deaths are preventable. It's 2013. I said this yesterday. Why are there no shelters in those schools at all? Build a shelter underneath the school, turn it into an all-purpose room / gym. Bam, there you go. Auditorium, whatever you want. Now, when there's a tornado, you guys can run down in and close the doors down and make sure they're real secure doors, not some stupid, wooden door because you wanted to save a couple $100. System's only as strong as your weakest link, right? Little common sense, we could solve a lot of these problems. Anyway, we get back, I want to get into a few other things, but email me with the relief information so I can get it out there. We'll be right back. Every time I mention the Red Cross, I seem to stir up the pot because there's always one person that says, no. The Red Cross, Popeye, they're great. I've worked with them. Well, that's good. I've worked with them too. Just because you've worked with an organization maybe doing disaster relief or anything does not mean that the people at the top of the organization are not scumbags. When they send out their little disaster relief teams, those people, I commend those people, the volunteers that go out and do stuff. I used to do that. I've worked with the Red Cross myself. So I know the way it works. I'm not bashing the individual that goes out. Kudos to you people. Anybody that goes out and trains to do that urban search and rescue stuff with the dogs and they volunteer their time, you people are the reason why things get done. Not the higher-ups, not the organization, you. The people at the very top are scum. It's the way it is. The Red Cross was set up by the Rothschild family. It's the truth. It's the plain truth. I'm not bashing the organization. It is what it is. Every time the Red Cross shows up, they don't do anything. Go ask anybody in Staten Island if the Red Cross was of any use to those people. They weren't. They weren't. Time and time again, they've dropped the ball. The money that they raise, okay, when they do a little fundraiser, the money that they're raising right now under the guise of tornado relief won't go to tornado relief. They've even admitted this. Look, as much as I can't stand Bill O'Reilly, he went after them after 9/11, right? And he did expose a few good, some good information, a few important things, we'll say. And the Red Cross even admitted that what they do when the money that they use for a disaster now, if they shell money out to like send their teams out or whatever, that comes out of an account that the money's already been sitting in. The money that's donated from people now and raised now doesn't go to that. It goes into an account. How about all the people they have to pay? Where do you think that money comes from? It comes out of a lot of the donations. Oh, people don't want to talk about that. How do you think the CEO of the Red Cross gets paid? How do you think all the underlings and all these people get paid? Where do you think that money comes from? So I'm not bashing the Red Cross. I think the people that go out and do the jobs themselves on the ground, the volunteers, are awesome. I'm bashing the reality of the situation where the higher-ups and the corporation that it is and the people that started it, that's who are scum, okay? That's why I always say give to the local charities. Don't give to the Red Cross or any of these big charities. Any of them, and it's not just the Red Cross. All of these big name charities that come out whenever there's a disaster, none of them ever help out. None of them. I guarantee you, go talk to people on the ground and find out the reality of the situation. I'm not talking about if they bring a disaster search and rescue team in or something like that, or they disaster relief teams, if they're given blankets and stuff that they can actually give to the people. But case in point, I was speaking to people live on air during Hurricane Sandy, and the Red Cross truck drove up in a place that's completely devastated, no electricity, no heat, no nothing. They didn't even have blankets for anybody. The truck had coffee and some water. And they said, well, can you bring people blankets and stuff? Oh, we don't have that. I was talking to one of the people live on the ground right there when the Red Cross truck pulled up, and she even told me what they had talked about beforehand. When the truck pulled up, they asked her water or coffee. Nothing. Go back and listen to the show. So, again, it's not the people that go out there to try to do something. The people themselves that volunteer their time, of course, that's the spirit. I applaud that. I commend that. You people rock. But the people at the very top, they're scum. Okay? You need to go look who they are. And if it was a decent organization, I would back it. But I've worked with them myself. I know how they operate. Okay? I've seen the hypocrisy in some of the things that they did that I did not like. So me personally, I say just go out and back the volunteers that are on the ground and back the local charities. That's how I roll. Okay? Not bashing anybody that's ever served their time for the Red Cross, anybody that volunteers their time in a manner to help others and doesn't look for recognition for it, and they do it on a voluntary basis, whether it's EMT, firefighter, in this case, disaster relief, whatever, then I commend you. Kudos to you. You people, I think the world of. You are the reason why things go well. Not the corporation that is the Red Cross or the evil people behind it who founded it. Look up who founded the USO. Prescott Bush, Nazi sympathizer. George Bush's grandpa founded the USO. You should go look into why he did that. Doesn't mean that it's a great organization. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Do not Can't say this enough. Do not look to an outside source to save you. Because they won't. The lack of any planning, pre-planning for these schools, like with a shelter for the children, is evident of that. The state will tell you they want to protect you. When I say the state, I don't mean the state of, or the state, the state of Oklahoma, or the state meaning the government. Okay? Whether it be federal, state, whatever. They tell you that they're going to protect you. We're going to make it safer for you. You're more likely to be killed by a tornado than you are by Al-Qaeda. But they didn't build shelters for that. They send kids to foreign countries to run around in people's backyards, blowing things up, depositing depleted uranium all over the place, to protect us from something that has less of a chance of killing us than Mother Nature. And yet we spend billions of dollars on the war against terror. A war on terror. More like the war of terror. War is terror. Let's get that straight. They spend all this money on all this useless crap, bombing things, blowing people up, shooting people, prosecuting whistleblowers, going after the quote-unquote conservatives, going after anybody that's, worried about civil liberties. Oh my God, they could be a terrorist. Your next-door neighbor could be a terrorist. But they don't bother to tell you, you know what? Tornadoes really can kill you. Weather is really a danger. Maybe instead of freaking you out, we should be helping you build shelters. You'll never hear them say something like that. All the money they spent on bombs, rockets, bullets, and sending our troops all over the world, and drones, and all this other crap that does not make us any safer at all, and is not about protecting the Constitution. Blowing somebody up in the mountains of Afghanistan with a drone, or blowing someone up in the mountains of Pakistan, or in Yemen, or wherever, with a drone, does not protect our Constitution. It doesn't. Get over yourself. You're not using any logic whatsoever by thinking that. And all that money that's being wasted could have been used to build shelters, and those kids perhaps maybe wouldn't have been killed. Perhaps if you live in Tornado Alley, right? Perhaps maybe instead of giving federal grants and federal funds to your police departments to buy SWAT gear and to buy tanks and to buy riot gear and run around looking like, stormtroopers, perhaps that money could have gone to build shelters for the community. One large underground shelter. Oh, they can't do that, Popeye, blah, blah. BS. They could have totally built an underground shelter. And I don't care how much money they say it would have cost in federal grants. I guarantee you it is a pittance compared to what they have spent on the war of terror. Or on the bailouts. All of that money, all of it wasted, could have been used for much better stuff. But because people don't care, because they think that the people in Washington know better than they do, they don't say anything. They acquiesce. They give up their own power. And then when something happens, they, come save me. And the government doesn't. And all their little corporations and agencies that grew up around them and suck off of them in one way, shape, or form, feeding off of them, they don't come and help you either. It's always the people on the ground that come and help. It's always the guy next door that digs you out. I don't see anybody from Washington digging people out of their homes there in Oklahoma. No excuse. Any of these people that get killed by tornadoes each year, no excuse for it. None. Those deaths could have been preventable. Some of them, at least. I mean, if you were caught in your home and a tornado hit, okay. Can't save everybody from Mother Nature. Fair enough statement. But things like the kids with the school, or perhaps maybe money, maybe you could put money into helping when they build homes. You make it a thing where part of it has to have an underground shelter in the basement that's sealed off from the rest of the house some way, shape, or form. With access, via set of stairs or doorway or whatever, but something that in case of an emergency, you can go underneath. Fallout shelters used to be built in people's backyards. Why? Oh, that's crazy. Only conspiracy theorists worry about that stuff. Until it happens. Until there's a natural disaster or something bad happens. And then suddenly the people that are prepared aren't crazy preppers or conspiracy theorists. Suddenly they're the guy that everybody wants to go to. So why doesn't everybody just get prepared? If these storms, Sandy and back in October of last year, and these tornadoes and stuff, if they've taught anybody anything whatsoever, they should teach you to be prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared. There's got to be a way that we could logically lower the death rate and danger from tornadoes. I mean, I don't know. How about maybe, future prediction of them is an important thing to know. And I don't want to hear, I said this last night when I was talking to Johnny, I don't want to hear that they can't, tornadoes are unpredictable and the science, we just don't know. Okay, you're remotely controlling an RC car on Mars. Okay, you're worrying whether Mars has water on it. You haven't even figured out the weather here on the planet. Oh, but maybe you have, and you're just not telling us. There's always that, too. They're geoengineering, ladies and gentlemen. They know what they're doing. Okay, so I don't want to hear any excuses that, we don't really know how tornadoes form and it's so unpredictable. Well, if that's the case, okay, if that really is the case, if we're that much of a sad sack, okay, and we geoengineer and we do all this other stuff, but nobody's bothered to taking the time to study how, maybe we could use that to our advantage and weaken tornadoes or weaken storms that could turn into tornadoes in tornado-prone areas. See, that's how you could use geoengineering to your advantage. Figure out what you could do to keep a storm cloud from turning into a tornado. Whatever you got to do. I know it's not that simple. I know, it's the storm cell itself, and then it spawns tornadoes. But what would happen if they could see one of these? Because they obviously know how powerful they are, and they're coming in, right? They know that this could be a storm system that could spawn tornadoes. Well, then why don't you have planes at the ready and have them go up there with silver iodide and seed the clouds? They were doing it in the 60s. They knew how to stop storms. Hurricanes. So why can't you do that on a mini scale? Maybe seed one part of the storm on the back end or something somewhere where it pulls energy and stuff away from the center of the storm and maybe where the tornadoes are forming. I don't know. I'm not a friggin' scientist. I'm coming up with this, on the fly, off the top of my head while I'm on air. If I can do this, where's all the scientists sitting around thinking about this? The guys that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Oh, that's right. The government got them working on useless crap. Or, to us that would be useless. It's all warfare garbage and taking over and police state stuff. That's all they focus on. That is it. You don't see them out there running around, well, we should have shelters. How come no one's mentioned why the school should have had a shelter? How come nobody said that? How come no one has said that? The school should have had a shelter. It's sad that 9 kids died, I think so far. It's horrific. 1 kid dying is horrific. 1 person dying is horrific. Why weren't there shelters in the school? Why wasn't there an underground shelter? Why haven't we figured out a better warning system? Why haven't we done any of this stuff? Do you see what I'm getting at? Our focus is not where it should be. We are focusing on other people's backyards. We need to worry about what's going on in Iran, or in Libya, or in Syria, or in this country. My God, we need to send troops and money and guns and bombs and bullets and rockets and planes. They must go. The national deficit? Who cares about the national deficit? Our infrastructure? Who gives a shit? Screw the infrastructure. Let's go fight war. That's what we've been cheerleading. That's the kind of retarded thinking that's been going on for 12 years. That's why we have issues. Think about where we would be. Can you imagine if we focused instead of war, right? If 9/11 didn't happen, and I don't want to hear, oh, well, Osama bin Laden. Stop it. If 9/11 didn't happen, okay, think about the money that wouldn't have been spent on the military-industrial complex, on the homeland security industrial complex, the billions and trillions of dollars. Think about the bailouts. All that money. Where would we be today if that money, instead of being spent on bombs and bullets and rockets and depleted uranium and all the other useless crap, where do you think we'd be today? Maybe we'd have shelters. Maybe some of those kids wouldn't have gotten hurt or killed. Just maybe. Because maybe we'd be focused on the important stuff. You know, we have our greatest minds focused on the wrong crap. Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our citizens pay the price every time Mother Nature decides to come down and play on the planet. 50 years ago, we had better infrastructure and more shelters in this country. I know, they were worried about the Ruskies, blah, 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 blah. At least they were prepared, or at least they were trying to prepare. Now you're told if you want to prepare for a dangerous event like this, and Mother Nature coming down and wreaking havoc, you're a terrorist. You must want to kill kids. If you prep for a storm, that means you're going to go pick kids off in an elementary school. It's going to be like Sandy Hook all over again because you want to prepare for a storm. That's the kind of message they put across. Remember, she was a prepper, the mother of Adam Lanza. She was a prepper. She was a crazy prepper with guns and preps. She was prepared for emergencies. Crazy preppers. They want you to not be prepared, so that way when something happens, you don't know what to do, and you have nothing to fall back on, and you have to go to them, the powers that shouldn't be. That's the way it works. See, if I can manipulate the whole situation, and I mean every aspect of it, like say I'm the powers that shouldn't be, right? And I want to manipulate the whole situation, and like I said, every aspect of the situation, I'm going to make sure everything goes the way I want it to. And then what the worst part is, when there is something bad that happens like this, the government's not there. The very government that says they're there to protect you from the oogity boogity man and from falling down and going bump and getting a little bruise on your bum, right? That very same government that says they're going to hold your hand and be there for you, when you need them, they're not there. When it's a crisis that they manufacture, they're all up in your grill, all over you. But when it's Mother Nature or something that you actually, hey, I could use your help, guys, you hear crickets. We are the solutions, ladies and gentlemen. Grassroots. We're right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. More solutions, and then we'll get into a few other things in hour number 2, but including what anarchy is not. But solutions. I offered solutions. Did I not? I said I would be giving some. Well, I talked about where we could get the money for shelters and bettering the infrastructure and things like that. That's no-brainer. Something I brought up last night, though. Really quick at the end of the broadcast. And I've talked about this earlier broadcasts I've done. Fresh drinking water. fresh drinking water. How important is fresh water? Well, it's important for your health, not only for drinking, but for sanitary reasons. Stagnant water, you get bacteria and all sorts of nastiness growing in there. Moving water, running water, it's harder for that to happen. More sanitary, moves the stuff away from you. It's how plumbing works. It's the whole idea behind plumbing. So, sanitary water. Being able to have access to clean drinking water. A lot of us take that for granted here in the States. We really do. I'm not talking about the people that live out in the desert, even them. You know, you always have, I mean, I'm sure there are people that they've been in situations where the water wasn't out or they had a, rough situation, survival situation, whatever. But as a whole, our country, you can go to your bathroom right now, go to your kitchen sink, and turn on the faucet and water will come out. Well, not many people in the world have that luxury. There's a lot of people in this world that don't have that luxury. Why? It's 2013. Oh, well, that's just the way it is. Africa and this and that and, these other countries and blah, 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 blah. No, there's no excuse. Why are these places not built? Why have we not stopped our retarded infighting amongst ourselves over stupid things like whose imaginary friend is cooler or what piece of the land is owned by who? How about we, instead of wasting money on bombs, bullets, rockets, and guns to kill each other, needlessly and senselessly over and over and over and over and over and over again? How about we spend the money on building desalination plants? How about that? How about building huge desalination plants along the coastlines of, all these countries? And then you could have it pump the clean, fresh water into smaller substations throughout the country, and then they could pump it to municipalities or whatever. It could be done. Oh, desalination plants use a lot of electricity, Popeye. I know they do. They use a lot of power. Well, what would you do then? How do you pay that power bill? Well, genius, you don't pay a power bill. See, that's the problem. Our technology is stifled by, well, how do we pay for it? How do we pay the electric bill? And who owns the electric companies? Who turned off the free energy back in the beginning of the 20th century? Who stopped Tesla? J.P. Morgan? So all of you understand, our technological advancements are retarded based on, well, it's going to cost a lot of power to run this thing. How about geothermal? Genius. I'm not a scientist, and I know about it. How about you build a geothermal plant right on the site, a small geothermal power plant for each one of these desalination plants, because the plant itself would be huge, so you build a little power plant on site for it. Other companies have done it. Tap into geothermal energy. For what we need it for, it'd be limitless. For right now. But no. Can't do that. No, let's build nuke plants because they're safe. And let's put them on a fault line, why don't we? Because, hey, nothing bad ever happens on fault lines. There's never been a history of earthquakes near fault lines, near nuke power plants, right? Oh, wait a minute. Fukushima. What about all the other ones that are aging? And, by the way, if you did geothermal, guess what? You wouldn't need the nuke power plants anymore. Of course, if they did geothermal, then the electric company would have a hard time charging you for it because it comes out of the earth and it's abundant. So how are they going to explain ripping you off? We have to make the electricity out of our power plant, so we have to charge you. Well, no, now you're taking it from the earth, so I guess you don't have to charge me. Solutions, ladies and gentlemen. Very simple. We just need to put our minds to it. We'll be right back with hour number 2. Don't go anywhere. When we get back, we're going to get into what anarchy is not. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is May 21st, 2013. And as I said, I'm going to be getting into a few things here in hour number 2, including what anarchy is not. It is an audio clip I will be playing for you from Mr. Larkin Rose. Be getting him on the broadcast to chat with him. I want to pick his brain. Very, very smart individual. If you don't know who he is, check out his YouTube channel, Larkin Rose. But I'm going to be playing a piece of audio tonight from him called What Anarchy Is Not. Why am I playing it? I'm going to play it, and I won't be able to play it this segment because it's about 19 minutes long. So I'm gonna fit it into the first long segment, and then we'll finish it up in the segment that follows it. But I want to play it tonight because a lot of people have misconceptions about what anarchy is. And this whole thing with Kokesh's march on July 4th, the armed march on D.C., led me to seeing this video of Stuart Rhodes. And I respect Stuart Rhodes, and I respect his opinion, but the way he called Kokesh in the video an anarchist, and he used the term the wrong way, basically. He used it the same way many people do. They misused it. So I saw it and I was like, if someone as smart as Stuart Rhodes is misusing the term anarchy, perhaps there's more people out there than I thought that might not really get what anarchy is. So I'm going to play this piece from Larkin Rose so people can understand what anarchy really is, because it's not what it's used to describe. If you actually wanted to go by what the powers that shouldn't be describe anarchy as, that's actually what we live in today. Their definition of it, oh my God, without law and order, without government, without police, gangs would be, roving all over the place and raping and pillaging people, and oh my God, and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what we have today, right? You have government is a gang. The police are gangs. They wear their little uniforms with their badges and their gang colors to, let each other know I'm in your gang, right? Often state police and something, I would say often the staties and the locals argue. And then, of course, the locals and the staties will argue with the feds, right? Because they're all different gangs. Get it? So technically, we all kind of already are in this, the version of what they want you to believe. The powers that shouldn't be want you to believe what anarchy is. We're already in that, if you understand what it truly is. We already live in that. We already live in this, they say it's absence of law, and oh my God, absence of law and order. We live in the absence of law and order. You don't think so? Go look at what's going on with the administration, and go look at Wall Street. Look at all these people getting away with murder, getting away with things that if you or your family did anything even remotely similar, you would be locked up for life. So do we really live in a law and order society? I don't think so. We live in a myth, a false reality. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and I want to get right into the audio clip for you. This is What Anarchy Isn't by Larkin Rose. Here we go.
Many people, when they hear the word anarchy, think of chaos and mayhem. So they assume that an anarchist must be in favor of disorder and violence. That is the complete opposite of the truth. Most objections and complaints about the anarchist or voluntarist philosophy are not actually about the philosophy itself, but result from people misunderstanding what the philosophy is all about. To illustrate a few points, we will use the example of two fictional islands: Authoritania, where there is a ruling class or government, and Anarchia, where there is no ruling class of any kind. We will use these islands to examine several common misconceptions about anarchism. Lots of people think anarchy means every man for himself, or survival of the fittest, or the absence of any social cooperation or organization. They think that anarchy means everyone has to be self-sufficient. This comes from the false assumption that some kind of government is necessary for any organization to occur. Whether it's part of a republic, a democracy, a kingdom, or a dictatorship, a ruling class issues orders called laws and punishes anyone who disobeys them. That is not cooperation. That's domination. It's one group forcing its will on another. Authoritarianism can be used to force people into organized patterns, but that does not mean that people are incapable of organizing their activities without being forced. The most productive and useful examples of organization that we see today are anarchistic in nature. No one was forced to build the grocery store you go to. No one was forced to produce or sell anything in it. Everyone involved in the vastly complex operation of growing your food, transporting it, displaying it in the store, and selling it to you, everyone involved participates voluntarily, working in exchange for money. You and all the other store customers choose freely which store to go to and what to spend your money on. This purely voluntary arrangement allows for an amazingly complex degree of organized cooperation without anyone being coerced to participate. In contrast, under government, a very small group of people comes up with an idea and forces everyone else to participate in it and provide for its funding with tax dollars. In the authoritarian version of a supermarket, the ruling class would tell people what to produce and how much, what prices to charge, and they would tell customers what they must buy and what they must pay. Anyone who did not comply with the centralized master plan would be punished in some way. That is how government does things. Which one of these would you prefer? Another common but incorrect assumption is that if there were no ruling class or no government, people would have no way of defending themselves against common criminals or foreign invaders. Again, this is simply not true. The government version of protection is inherently hypocritical. Governments will use their hired law enforcers to find and lock up some of the private thugs and thieves and prevent them from preying on people. But every ruling class gets the money for its operations by way of taxation, demanding money from its subjects and punishing those who don't pay up. Oddly, every ruling class insists that it needs to be able to forcibly control and extort money from people in this way in order to protect them from private criminals who might try to forcibly control and extort them. In contrast, if there is no government, people do not lose their inherent right to defend themselves from violence or to defend what they have from those who would take it. Every person has this right, and they also have the right to organize and cooperate with each other to exercise that right. Organizing for mutual defense does not require any government-granted laws or authority. No one wants to be attacked or defrauded, and everyone wants to feel safe. Whether each person takes this on himself or herself individually, or whether they hire and organize others to do it on their behalf, it can be done on a voluntary basis. Those who insist that government is necessary often claim that if there wasn't a government, then smaller private gangs would spring up to enslave and rob people. Organized crime gangs exist along with government, and most people do not understand the dynamics between them and how government enriches and empowers organized crime while appearing to fight it. Black markets enrich organized crime, and money allows them to buy government protection. There's no reason to think they would do as well in an environment of freedom where they would have fewer ways to make money and would be up against both individual and organized armed citizens. A criminal gang that's recognized as such has far less power than a gang whose aggression is perceived to be legitimate and proper. And that's the gang we call government. When thuggery is called law enforcement, and thievery is called taxation, and self-defense is called crime and terrorism, then even the widespread ownership of firearms can't do much to stop the aggression. Imagine a private gang trying to do the things the government does without the aura of authority, and imagine how a well-armed population would respond to this. The gang would fail quickly and dramatically. Another concern that people have when they first consider the idea of a stateless society is that some people are truly malicious, destructive, and sociopathic. The concern is that these people would be free to do anything they wanted and no one would stop them. But this concern is again based on a basic misunderstanding of human nature. Wherever we have a government ruling class, we still have freelance thieves and thugs who are not deterred by the laws of the politicians. In some instances, they're stopped by force by the police, or they decide not to commit a crime for fear of what the police might do to them. What makes this deterrence work is not the legislation or the official badges, but the simple threat of harm to the sociopath. It really makes no difference whether the threat comes from the police, or another citizen, or even another criminal. A sociopath doesn't care about laws or social rules. He cares about avoiding pain and hardship for himself. This is still true when a government ruling class is not involved at all. If the intended target of a would-be carjacker pulls out a gun, it doesn't make any difference to the carjacker whether that person has a badge or whether there's a law against taking people's cars. Discouraging nasty people from hurting others does not require special authority, only the ability to use defensive force. Ironically, though people hope that government will protect them, having a government, a gang which is believed to have the right to tax and control people, just creates one gang so big and powerful that normal people can't resist it. In short, to create a huge gang and then give it societal permission to control and extort people with the hope that this gang will prevent theft and thuggery is simply a self-contradictory idea, but that's what government always is. Some people might assume that if people organize for mutual protection and defense, then that's what government is. But there's an essential difference. People coming together to do something that everyone has the right to do, such as defend yourself, doesn't require any special authority. It's not government unless one group of people claims the right to do things which others do not have the right to do, such as taxing and controlling innocent people. Organized defense can be very effective without supposing the special right to rule over others. In other words, without being government. In contrast, governments rob the people they rule of far more wealth than private crooks could ever manage, making the idea of a protector government ridiculous. Another common objection to the idea of a stateless society is the notion that if not for a group of lawmakers telling the rest of us how to behave, we would all behave like stupid, irresponsible, violent animals. This claim implies one of two things. Either we normal people have no idea what is right and wrong unless and until politicians tell us, or the only reason we want to do the right thing and coexist peacefully is because politicians told us to. A quick examination of your own motivations will show you that neither of those things is actually true. It's particularly odd to make this argument in a society where politicians are voted into power. If the people themselves have no moral code and no conscience, and are just stupid, violent animals, why does almost everyone want government to keep the peace and protect the innocent? Would a population of vicious, heartless, evil people try to elect good people to keep the evil people in line? Obviously not. the goodness and the desire for order and peace comes from us, not from the lawmakers we vote into office. The same holds true of everything that government does. If people are so short-sighted and selfish that they can't be trusted to voluntarily organize and raise money for whatever they deem important, then how can those same people be trusted to decide who should be in power? The implication is that the average person can't be trusted to run his own life, but can be trusted to choose someone to run other people's lives. Government is really not a civilizing influence. It's actually an uncivilizing influence. People who would never personally rob their neighbors constantly use the government to do it for them by way of taxation. People who would never dream of trying to control minute details of their neighbors' lives think it's just fine to vote for politicians to do it instead. Government gives everyone the opportunity and encouragement to rob and control other people without risk. So government, rather than serving as a check against the imperfections of our nature, instead drastically amplifies our greed, irresponsibility, and malice towards other human beings by giving us a legally acceptable and risk-free way to interfere with the lives and choices of our fellow men and women. Government brings out the criminal and busybody in everyone. In contrast, in the absence of a ruling class, people would lose their ability to ask lawmakers to interfere with their neighbors' lives. And we would not have law enforcers who could avoid responsibility for evil deeds by claiming that they were just following orders. Throughout history, far more theft, assault, oppression, and even murder has been committed by those acting on behalf of a supposed authority than by anybody else. Even basically good people, when they believe in government, will condone things or do things which they know would be wrong if they did them on their own. Most people know that theft and assault are bad, but they imagine that controlling their neighbors and forcing them to spend their money on things they don't want is perfectly moral and legitimate when it's done by way of the political process. Wrong becomes right when it's called taxation, legislation, regulation, and war. Anarchists know better. They know that human society will never be perfect, but it would be a whole lot better if evil deeds were committed only by genuinely nasty, sociopathic people, rather than being committed wholesale by basically good people who think that violent aggression is okay when it's called law enforcement.
I'm going to pause it right there because we're coming up to the break. When we come back in, I'm going to let the music fade down, and I'm going to pick it up right where we're leaving off, so do not go anywhere. We'll be right back and finish up with what anarchy isn't on the other side of the break.
The fundamental principle of voluntarism is very simple. It's wrong to initiate violence against any other person, regardless of badges, laws, or alleged authority. The only time the use of force is justified is to defend against aggression. Almost everyone understands this on a personal level, but they've been taught that this basic rule of social living does not apply in the game of politics and government. Most people already know how to get along with others, and most people want a peaceful and just society. Our morality doesn't come from politicians making laws. Our ability to organize and cooperate doesn't come from the ruling class. When people escape the belief in government, they don't suddenly turn into violent animals. Our inherent right to defend ourselves and our ability to defend ourselves is not served by government. In fact, it's threatened by government more than by anything else. Ruling classes do not produce peaceful coexistence, but rather perpetual conflict and violence. Our belief in government authority takes our compassion, virtue, and good intentions and turns them into power for people who crave power and riches. Of course, the people who benefit most from the political racket will put a good spin on the system and do their best to convince people that it's a social necessity. But ask yourself this: have the thousands of laws, regulations, and taxes imposed on you by politicians made you a better person? Have they made you more productive or more caring? Is the world better off with the politicians taking your money and telling you how to live your life? Or do you think it might have been better off if you'd been allowed to spend your own money and make your own decisions? Is society really best served by a small class of people forcefully imposing a centralized master plan on everyone else? Can the orders and threats of a ruling class make the world what it should be? Or would society be better served by human freedom and respect for individual rights, by voluntary cooperation and peaceful organization? If this second option sounds better to you, maybe you should learn more about anarchism. Some people dismiss anarchism as a utopian idea that would only work if everyone were generous and compassionate. Obviously, everyone is not generous and compassionate all the time. But these people need to look at the other side of the coin. If people are too stupid, greedy, and malicious to be free, aren't they too stupid, greedy, and malicious to be trusted with power over others? Whether people are inherently good, bad, or some of each, giving a person power over others is not going to make that person better. In fact, power has historically been known to corrupt people and make them worse, whereas the discipline imposed by the equal freedom of everyone else brings out the best in human nature. Most people today think that we need some form of government because they mistakenly believe that obedience to authority makes us all more civilized, moral, and peaceful. In reality, it has always done exactly the opposite. Everyone knows that governments can be corrupt, abusive, inefficient, counterproductive, even tyrannical. But most people assume that the way to fix that is to get the right people into power. People have spent centuries trying to create a good society using different kinds of ruling classes, different legal structures, different ways of choosing the rulers, and so on. But every governmental construction has resulted in freedom and riches for some, and oppression, violence, and poverty for others. What if, instead of deciding what the throne should look like and who should sit on it, all people of goodwill embraced the non-aggression principle? What if, instead of looking to a ruling class to impose our values on society, we embraced the concept of self-ownership? These principles are simple and easy, to the point of being self-evident, but they're diametrically opposed to the authoritarian principles that most of us have been indoctrinated with.
She's making a lot of sense, ladies and gentlemen. There's about a minute left. When we come back, I'll finish it up on the other side. Don't go anywhere. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I rewound it about a minute because I wanted to pick up with something that she said at the very beginning, because it's the final little clip here, and it almost creates like its own little segment, but it sets it up real nicely, the end of what she goes into. So I rewound it about a minute. I'm going to give her the next few minutes to finish up with the audio here, and then I will give my commentary. So here we go, finishing up with, from Larkin Rose's YouTube channel, What Anarchy Isn't.
Most people today think that we need some form of government because they mistakenly believe that obedience to authority makes us all more civilized, moral, and peaceful. In reality, it has always done exactly the opposite. Everyone knows that governments can be corrupt, abusive, inefficient, counterproductive, even tyrannical. But most people assume that the way to fix that is to get the right people into power. People have spent centuries trying to create a good society using different kinds of ruling classes, different legal structures, different ways of choosing the rulers, and so on. But every governmental construction has resulted in freedom and riches for some, and oppression, violence, and poverty for others. What if, instead of deciding what the throne should look like and who should sit on it, all people of goodwill embraced the non-aggression principle? What if, instead of looking to a ruling class to impose our values on society, we embraced the concept of self-ownership? These principles are simple and easy, to the point of being self-evident, but they're diametrically opposed to the authoritarian principles that most of us have been indoctrinated with. Anarchism does not mean chaos and violence, or every man for himself. Having no government does not mean having no morality, no organization, and no cooperation. Simply put, anarchism does mean that no one is your master and no one is your slave. And that's all it means. If you really want to understand why so much of human history has been plagued by war and oppression, and you want to know how to change it, you need to rethink everything you've been taught about authority and government. For that, I suggest you read The Most Dangerous Superstition, available at larkinrose.com and amazon.com.
And I suggest you check out Larkin's book, too. That's why every time I play one of his pieces of audio, I always let, at the very end, they always put a little plug for his book and his website, and I always let it play, because the man has some good points. You heard the lady reading what Larkin wrote. Makes a lot of good points. I don't see anything wrong with governing yourself. Do you? Do you feel that you are so simple and such an ignoramus that you cannot run your own life and take care of yourself? That you require some outside source to come save you? See, that is the grandest myth of them all. That is probably the most elaborate part of this whole scheme, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that they have a good portion of the general public convinced that without some sort of outside force, you wouldn't be able to live your life. Things would not get done. You would have chaos. Really? Are we at that level as humanity where we cannot take care of ourselves and govern ourselves? Do you need the government to wipe your ass for you when you go to the bathroom? It's graphic, but it's a simple question. Do you? Do they come shower you? Do they scrub you all over and do your hair in the shower for you and then dry you off? Do they put your shoes on for you and tie them in nice little bows? Do they put your pants on and dress you in your socks and your underwear? Do they drive you to work? Do they make your kids dinner? Do they go food shopping for you? Do they write the checks? No, you do that, right? You're capable of doing all of that on your own. So why do you need some entity filled with people from some ruling class? And I'm doing air quotes when I say that. Ruling class. That's what they consider themselves to be. We are the ruling class. It is our birthright to rule over the people because we just naturally know better. Really? Really? You think so? Then why is it that the ruling class never come up with the solutions to the problems? It's always the rest of the people. The ruling class's only solution is making something illegal or taxing it. That is it. Banning or taxing. And taxing you could put / regulation because regulation is just another form pretty much of taxation on most points. So I don't want to hear the arguments, well, when things go unregulated and the government doesn't check it out. Well, the government doesn't check things out anyway, so even when they regulate things, things don't work out. Look at the FDA. Case in point, the Food and Drug Administration. Do they do anything great? No, they allow aspartame in the food. They allow all this other horrific crap. And then they go after vitamins and nutrients, stuff that you actually need. So, are they really helping you out? I don't think so. Do you think they really have your best interests at heart? I don't think so. I myself know that I can take care of myself. I don't need somebody to wipe my rear end for me. I don't need somebody to tell me to go brush my teeth. You know what? If I don't brush my teeth and if I don't wipe my own rear end, then I have to deal with the problems that come from that, right? I would have to deal with that. The government doesn't have to deal with it. I would have to deal with it. My personal responsibility. Just like it's your personal responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't go to work. Let me ask you a question. If you don't go to work, I mean, aside from if you work for the government, but if you don't go to work, does the government call you up and say, why are you not at work right now? You should be at work. It would be for your best interest to go to work. Right? No, they don't. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they would like you to be there so they could tax you on your money that you're making. But do they call you up and tell you whether or not you should go to work? Not yet. I'm sure they'd like to. They'd like to control everything if you let them. But do you need them, is the point. Do you need anybody to tell you what to do? Do you really? Because I guarantee you the people this is like, you want to talk about, I guess you'd call it a paradox, whatever. You get people that they say they hate the system, right? And oh man, screw the system. I don't like to be told what to do. I'm a rebel. I hate authority, man. But I'm going to go vote for Barack Obama because he's going to change things. Really? Or I'm going to go vote for whoever because this person's going to change things. Really? So you're against authority and being told what to do, but then you go to the voting booth and vote for someone to tell you what to do. Really? Are you really against being told what to do? Or are you just saying that you're against it? There's a difference between actually talking the talk and walking the walk. There's a difference between knowing and walking the path. There really is. You want to walk the path, be a free individual, not act like you're free or pretend you're free and say you're free. Man, I got a Chevy pickup truck with an Army Strong bumper sticker on it. Hooah, I'm free. No, you're not free. You're not free if you sit on your couch and watch Monday Night Football and, put your energy and your emotional energy, your tribal energy into some fictitious retarded team, which most of these games are fixed anyway. Oh, I know that's too hard for most of you people to believe that some of these bigger games are fixed. Yeah, I know, because that doesn't happen. Because that's never happened ever. Right? That's a conspiracy theory, right? You want to be a truly free individual? You want to be a rebel? You want to stand up to the New World Order and give them the middle finger and say, I'm not going to take it? Then you live as a free individual. That doesn't mean that you walk down the street smoking a joint, flipping the bird at the cameras and the cops and go, yeah, man, I'm a free individual. That's not how it works. You live your life as a truly free individual. Meaning, just like you heard her say, they don't want to be controlled, and they don't want to control anybody. True anarchy. They don't want to be a slave, and they don't want anybody to be their slave. Okay? That means taking responsibility for your own actions. It starts off in your own personal life. When you screw up and you do something stupid, own up to it. We've all done it where we make an excuse. Oh, well, my leg hurt or my ass hurt or this or that or it's this person's fault. If it wasn't raining out. Stop it. You want to fight the New World Order? You want to defeat them? You start on a personal level. Because you can never hope to have a positive effect and actually change something for the better on the macro unless you change it in the micro. As above, so below, ladies and gentlemen, the law of correspondence. That is what that means. When you hear Freemasons use it, they are referencing the law of correspondence. The physical manifestation of that would be if you looked at the Washington Monument, and if you stood across from the Washington Monument where you had the reflecting pool in between you and the Washington Monument, you would see a physical representation of as above, so below. You would see the reflection, and it would be upside down of their little phallic symbol, which is different. The obelisk is different, is a complete different story. But with the reflecting pool, you see as above, so below. That is a physical representation of the law of correspondence. What you have in the macro will be in the micro. What you have in the micro will be in the macro. So if you change the micro, yourself personally, something that you change in your personal life, you make this physical change where you say, you know what? I don't need them to pamper me. I'm going to stop living in fear like they pump out on that television and like they tell me to time and time and time again. Be afraid. Be very afraid. No, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to govern yourself. You start off slowly. You can't just run around. You can't run before you learn to even walk. When it comes to truly governing ourselves, most of the people out there are still crawling. If that. So let's not try to run the marathon yet. Let's try to just figure out how to crawl and maybe get up on our own 2 feet and walk first. So you start off small. Start off by taking personal responsibility when you make a mistake. Own up to it. You know what? It's actually fulfilling when you screw up and you say, you know what, I did it. I made a mistake. And it's, even if someone's yelling at you and screaming at you, you say, dude, it's over. End it. I owned up to it. It's my bad. Whatever I got to do to make amends or fix it, it's done. It's over. Leave it. And you'd be surprised how quickly arguments and yelling and screaming can dissipate. You'd be surprised how, that embarrassment of making a mistake will move fairly quickly, and it'll morph into, I don't want to make this mistake again, and you'll learn from it. And then you can start to do it in bigger ways in your life. And then eventually you emanate that energy outwards, and other people will start doing it too. 100th monkey syndrome. I'm not kidding, ladies and gentlemen. This is how we win. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. When you get old in life, things get taken from. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, is because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. The 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. That's the team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals. Ideas are bulletproof.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. The litany against fear. Learn it, recite it, repeat it as necessary, out loud, in your head, whenever you need to. Taking care of yourself and self-governance is going to be a very, very scary thing for many people. It is going to scare the living crap out of many of you because for the first time, many of you are going to feel that you don't have a safety net, a mommy or a daddy figure to look out for you and pamper your butt and take care of you. You know what? You do not require it, so do not worry, ladies and gentlemen. You can handle it. Recite the litany against fear if you need to. Look within yourself for the energy because it's there. You have the power. You can do this. You don't need to rely on somebody with a cape and a costume to come flying in and rescue you. You are the person that you've been looking for. Your whole life, everybody always looks to this outside, abyss. We're always looking and yearning and looking and yearning. It's because we're looking and yearning in the wrong damn place, okay? Because our whole lives, we've been told that you have to look outward for the answer to things. You've never been told that you should look inward for the solutions and to the answers, because that's where they come from within inside all of us, each and every one of us. Everybody. Okay, we are the solutions. That's where I came up with the slogan, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. It's inside each and every one of us. Stop looking to outside sources. You are the Superman you're looking for. Go look in the mirror right now. Look at yourself in the eyes and tell yourself you love yourself. You are the Superman that you've been looking for, or the Superwoman, and that you can do this. Start small. Start taking personal responsibility for things in your own life, and it will snowball and it will grow. And more people will do this. And the more and more people that do it, the faster and faster this evolution will happen. And the faster the evolution happens, the faster they become irrelevant. And their methods of control become absolutely irrelevant. And they're done. And then we win. And it's over. And we move on. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. I love you all. Remember what I said. I'm out of here.